Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. Welcome back. It's been a long 4th of July break. I normally don't take this type of a break in the summertime, but I knew a lot of people were going to be away, so hopefully you had a chance to spend some time with family and friends to get out. Hopefully in a few days that we had that were sunshine. I know it's been raining for about every single day in July, but we had a couple days that weren't too bad. So we're going to wait for people to sign on in, and then we'll get back to our curriculum. The last thing that we did was a midterm almost 10 days ago. For the most part, I think people did fairly well. So congratulations. If you didn't do well, there's going to be a chance for you to redeem yourself in a week from Thursday when a week from Thursday is our final. So we'll be able to see what you have learned during this course. So we have a lot to go over in the next 5.5 classes before the final. We're going to have to condense a few things to cover everything that we need to go over. I looked at the schedule, and I am a full class behind. We were supposed to be driving emergencies right before we took a break for July 4th, but of course I let things get a little bit out of hand, talked probably more than I should have, and didn't kind of tighten things up. But here we are on the 13th, one full class behind. So we're going to try to sneak everything in. I'm just looking at the number of people that are signed in. It's good to see everybody. For the most part, all the names that I see up here, I've been driving with. I see a few of you I haven't. But for the most part, driving is coming right along. I will have a handful of you completed next week. If you're not completed, remember we continue on with our driving until it's done. The other thing that we need to do, and I'll probably post it tonight, and by the way, I did post some questions from what we're going to learn tonight in tonight's class on the Facebook page, so make sure that you do that. And we're going to start getting into road rage, and there were articles that I wanted you to do, so that's going to probably, or you're going to have to hand that in to me tomorrow sometime. So let's get right into what we're going to cover. Oh, by the way, drive times are filling up quickly, so I'm not going to beg for people anymore. I only have one opening for tomorrow. I think it's at 4 o'clock. Same thing Thursday. Fridays, I got a few more spots. Saturday's pretty wide open. But people are taking advantage of trying to get their driving in. So I'm not going to have to beg as much as I normally do. So I'm going to put it on you. Contact me if you want to drive. If not, we'll just do it when we do it. And just remember, I am going to be gone the first week of August. So first week of August, I'm not here. All right, so that's not going to be online. I'm not going to be driving. So let's get right into tonight. So we're going to start off with driving emergencies, and then we're going to get into road rage. So let's get right into driving emergencies. So let me click out of the music and just deal with the microphone. The way that I think that you need to approach driving and how it relates to driving emergencies, the way you should approach learning first aid or CPR. First aid and CPR is probably something that you're never going to have to use, but if you do need to use it, it's kind of good that you know it. So the tips and the techniques that we're going to talk about tonight, I hope and pray will never, ever happen to you out on the roadway. But just in case that they do, I hope that you will remember back to tonight or back to reading in the state manual and from responsible driving, what are some of the things that you need to do. Now, I don't expect you to memorize step by step every little thing that we go over. Now, I do believe in order, in following steps to get the desired result. But at times, we may get steps mixed up, we may forget a step. But I believe that if we get the majority of what we need to remember done in the steps that we follow, I think we're going to get the desired result that we want. The first thing I want you to write down in your notes, and this is really hard to do, is think before you act. We're so reactive when it comes to driving. When we see something, we react to it. When something is bad happening out on the roadway, when it deals with a driving emergency. Now, I don't mean think as in 30 seconds or 15 seconds. I'm talking about 4 to 5 seconds. I'm talking about processing in your head what is the next thing I need to do and what are the steps that I need to follow beyond that to get the result that I need. Because I think a lot of times you may have brain freeze where you are so overcome by what has happened out on the roadway that you just don't do anything. And I think a term that I used to hear a lot is analysis paralysis, is that you are so caught up in analyzing what is happening, you don't do anything. And that's bad. So you do have to act and act swiftly, to make sure things don't get worse and to get the desired outcome that you want. Now, the first thing, and I don't have all these video clips because I had to alleviate some of them to get through everything that we need to. So I got to remember what I have loaded and what I don't. The first thing that will probably happen to you at some point in your driving, if it hasn't already, is running off the pavement. Now, of course, the faster the speed, the worse this situation is going to be. But for the most part, it's very common for you to not be paying attention, to be distracted, maybe to be going too fast, and all of a sudden you realize you only have 2 tires on the pavement. That's the left side of your car, and then the right side of your vehicle has dropped off the edge. So let's kind of go through steps. Now, this is a very heavy note-taking unit. All right, so I really want you to kind of, don't write every single word that I have up here, but write down a few things that will hopefully remind you of things that need to be done. So first of all, don't be distracted. Don't go too fast. Work on positioning out on the road, because usually a lack of proper position is what is going to get you to the point where you're going off the edge of the pavement. So if you're always driving centered in your lane or left of center, this is not going to be a real issue. But distractions and speed is way, way up there for while you're going off the edge of the road. So what I want you to write down, make sure that you have both hands on the wheel. Now, I am not the type of instructor that will always make you use both hands when we drive. There are going to be some times when we're on a highway, you may be scratching your head or whatever. It's not like 2 hands on the wheel all the time. It's going to be when you are in a bad situation or a risky situation, like driving around town, or where you have to make a lane change, where you have to do some type of parking. Both hands on the wheel is beneficial. Can you always drive with one hand? You probably could, but it's not the best. This is a situation where you're going to want both hands on the wheel. This is when you're going to need the strength of an opposing hand to help you regain control of your vehicle. So hold the wheel tightly. Now, in the manual, I believe it talks about trying to keep your car going straight ahead. You don't want it pulling to the right. You definitely don't want it going off to the left when you move back onto the pavement. So be very careful with the movement of your hand. Ease up on the accelerator, because you definitely don't need a gas pedal. If you do step on, and this is supposed to be brake pedal, I don't know why, I guess when I did the last bullet I put gas and I was thinking gas. It's actually, third bullet is supposed to read, do not step on the brake pedal suddenly or hard, because that is going to make things worse. And if you're being followed too closely, you're going to be an issue for the people that are behind you. So if you're going to use the brake pedal, ease into it. Use it very gently. Now, if it's a big drop off where we're talking 3 to 4 inches, it is going to be a violent pull to the right. You need to counter that by probably turning the wheel a quarter to a half of a turn to get back onto the road. Do not turn more than a few inches beyond that quarter of a turn, because you do not want to shoot over to the other side of the roadway. Once you get back onto the road, think about what just happened. It could be because you're distracted. So did you have your phone out? Make sure you don't use it. Maybe it's because you're fatigued or tired. Get to the side of the road, get some rest. So that's why I pulled out on this bullet right here, is to pull over to the side of the road and regain your composure, because it is going to make your heart beat a little bit faster. You're going to be a little bit anxious about what just happened, and maybe driving down the road right now may not be the best thing. So wait a few moments, 30 seconds to a minute, take a couple deep breaths, make sure everybody that was behind you is gone, and then ease back onto the roadway. Now, this video clip that I found from an insurance company many years ago, they gave us a whole bunch of what they call 60-second tips to driving. And I came across one for running off the pavement. Now, the drop off here in the video is not bad, so it's not going to be a bad situation, but I figured I'd just give you an idea of what it looks like.
Drifting onto the gravel shoulder of a highway can lead to a serious collision.
The uneven traction could cause you to lose control of your vehicle and send you into the ditch.
In this situation, don't make any quick movements. Making a quick change or abruptly moving back onto the pavement could send your vehicle into the path of oncoming traffic.
A head-on collision could occur because of overcorrecting. You should grip the steering wheel firmly and slowly ease off the gas, but do not brake. When you feel you have control of the vehicle, check your mirrors, signal, and ease back onto the highway when safe.
If the drop-off to the shoulder is steeper than usual, slow down even more and steer back onto the pavement at an even sharper angle.
So you can see that it wasn't much of a drop-off. Actually, when one of the women was talking to you, if you look behind her, it actually sloped a little bit more severely off to the right. That's what you got to really watch out for. And living in New England and being around rural areas is that we don't have much of a soft shoulder. It really does get quite bad if you leave the pavement. So try not to have that happen at all. One thing that could happen when you leave the pavement, you try to come back on, is having a tire blowout. So with a tire blowout is sudden loss of air from the tire. And we're talking you're going from air in the tire to totally flat, probably within like 10 to 15 seconds. So it happens quick. Now, the second bullet is what I want you to remember for the final. Now, every topic that we go over in class will have questions on the final. So in this section tonight, we're going to have questions. And hint, hint, this may be one of them. When you have a tire blowout, and everyone who drives, everybody that I know that's driven a vehicle has had a flat tire at some point. A blowout is a driving emergency. Changing a tire, even though it's in this topic tonight, I don't consider it an emergency. It may put you in danger depending on where you change it, but it's the blowing out of the tire. It's not a slow leak, it's a sudden loss of air that's going to be a real issue for you. So what I want you to remember here with a blowout, the front tire that blows out will pull you in that direction. So the worst tire to have a blowout is to the left. The left tire is going to bring you into oncoming traffic. It's going to be a violent pull. Now, I'm going to try to remember tomorrow with the people that I'm driving that I'm going to try to simulate this when you're out driving with me. So if you're scheduled to drive tomorrow, do not be surprised at some point during the drive, I am going to simulate a tire blowout, all right? So be on guard. Now, the back tire that blows out, doesn't matter which one it is, right or left, it will make the back of your vehicle swing from side to side. So what I want you to write down in your notes is that the faster you're traveling, the more severe the swing out, the more severe the fishtail. I had a blowout in Connecticut, just outside of Hartford, going to Pennsylvania. We were driving to Pennsylvania, and we were probably going 60, 65 miles per hour. And it was one of the scariest things that ever happened to me in a car, because the back end violently went towards another lane. I believe it went out to the left lane first. And oh my goodness, we had all we could do to keep that car from rolling over, because it seemed like the car wanted to roll over. But we regained control of the vehicle, and we were able to get over. I believe we were in the third lane, so we had to go over 2 lanes to get over to the breakdown lane in order to change the tire. But it was scary. So once again, both hands on the wheel, so important. Keeping that wheel tight, steering in your lane. When they say steering straight, they're saying basically steer straight. Take your foot off the accelerator. Let the weight of the vehicle slow you down, because you don't want to hit the brake too quickly on any driving emergency. When you think you have control of the vehicle, then try to move your vehicle off to the side of the road, because you know the next thing that you're going to have to do is change a tire. And you should always try to move to the right. You should never go to the left. Even if you're in the 3rd lane or the 4th lane in a 4-lane highway, you think, well, it's closer to the left edge than it is to the right edge. It's a lot easier for tow trucks to get you when you're on the breakdown lane off to the right than off to the left. Now, if you have to do it to the left, yeah, you can do that, but be very careful, because that's where all the traffic that is moving quite quickly, and it's going to put you in somewhat of a precarious predicament if you have to work around your vehicle with cars buzzing by around 65, 70 miles per hour. I don't have the video for the blowout. So what would cause a blowout? It could be a faulty tire. It could be low tire pressure. It could be bulges and cuts in the sidewall of your tire. You might have hit something that was sharp, and we'll talk about this in a moment. It could also be because you hit a pothole. So you know, some of you that have been driving this week, I've been trying to get a lot of you to miss certain areas on the road that aren't the best, because you never know one of these days when you hit it just right that it's going to cause a pothole. Tire pressure, I just want to take a moment here to talk about, because once your tire pressure is below what's recommended, you will find the car's not going to drive as well. The tire will wear out prematurely. You're going to have more problems. So I can't stress enough that even do this with your family car. I know it's not your responsibility, but I would highly recommend you get in the habit, whether it be checking the pounds per square inch inside the vehicle, if you have that capability in your vehicle, or to use a gauge. And for those of you that drive this week, I'll try to show you the gauge that I have in the driver's ed vehicle so we can take a look at it. So maybe we can put some of these things into practice when we drive. But try to check your pressure. Here it says monthly. I would probably do it in the summertime, probably bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. Most people are driving more in the summer because of vacation and just visiting friends. Heat does a lot of damage to tires too. And I just think in the summertime, checking it is probably better more frequently than less. Also notice that it says here that you're going to lose tire pressure in the wintertime, that it's going to drop 1 pounds per square inch for every 10 degrees in the drop of a temperature. The sensors inside the vehicle are helpful, but don't rely on that. You have to use a tire gauge, and I'll show it to you in the driver's ed vehicle. I have one. And you can pick it up in auto parts stores, it says here, and we'll kind of go through how to read it when you're in the car with me. I'll show you how to check the specs, whether it be on the tire or on the side of the door. Once you open up the driver's side door, there is a indicator on a plaque that tells you what your tire pressure should be. Owner's manual will also give you that information. That was part of what I wanted you to do in the first week of class. In that worksheet that I gave you about knowing your vehicle, you should have gone to your owner's manual and tried to figure this out. The other thing too, it says here is know which is which. Cars have at least 3 separate pressure ratings, one for the front, one for the back, and one for the spare. So you've got to realize it's not 1 pounds per square inch reading for all the tires. So it's very important, especially on SUVs and trucks, to know that's where you're going to see it more. Cars may be the same except for the spare tire, but SUVs and trucks are going to probably be where you see the difference in your front and your rear tires. So I just thought that would be helpful for you to have a basic understanding of tire pressure. Here's a good example of what a tire would look like if you did not check it. Here's a tire that probably had bad alignment. Notice it's worn on the outside. It's gone right down to the steel belts and right into a point where that is a flat tire. That is a cause of a blowout. One Saturday I was driving with a student and we came upon this car in Dover, and I said, I really want to take a picture for my PowerPoint. Could you pull over the side of the road while I take a picture of this car? And there was nobody in the car. There was nobody off to the side, so we would have helped if they were there. I have helped people in the past change tires. I think it's a good thing to help people out if they need it. I also think it's a good idea to teach students that are driving, because you probably have never done it before, to see someone change a tire. So anyways, the tire totally came off the rim, and the reason why I took this picture is that is what the car was driving on. This is a situation you should never be in. If you're driving on a flat tire, the metal around the rim of your tire is relatively sharp. And if you're driving, a couple hundred yards or more, there's a good chance that metal edge is going to rip and tear that tire and the seal right off the rim. And you're going to lose that. Let's go back to the last. The rubber of your tire is going to come right off the rim. So now you not only have to buy a new tire, you're going to have to buy a new rim. So write that down in your notes. Do not ride on metal. Do not ride on your rim. You're going to flatten it. It's going to be ruined. So please do not do that. And this is what it looked like. I'm sure they weren't too happy. Oh, this is a good time for me to make a plug for AAA again. I think I've mentioned this before in this class. I say it so often I forget what classes I've said this to and who I have it. If you can become a member of any automotive group, and I know some dealerships, some cars actually, Connor, I was going to call on you. I'm so glad you just put that up there. When I was just talking about tires, I said, there's someone in class here, if all of you, if you take a look on the side here, Cooper basically works on cars. I know Cooper knows so much more than I do. And he's right. There are some tires that don't go flat. I think that's what the comment was that just came up. It came up on and then disappeared. But yeah, when it comes to tires, you don't want to mess around. Because that is what's going to keep you safe on the roadway. So when you think that the tire is a little bit flat, a little bit soft, it could be a slow leak, just something that you can't see, you probably should get it checked out. In AAA, like I said, an automotive group, I know some car manufacturers will say that they will provide service to you if you buy a new car. Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, Connor, and I wouldn't say that here online, but I'm glad you just texted me that. I won't say it online, but you're probably right. But AAA for around $50 will come out and change a tire. I mean, $50 is for the membership. It's not for changing the tire. So they'll bring gas to you. They'll jumpstart your car. They'll change tires. So a lot of the things that we talked about tonight will help you out. And I can't tell you how many times I have used AAA in the past. Now, I think it's probably been 3 years since I've used them, um, but I always carry it from year to year. And I should take a look and see when I became a member. I'll try to show it to you tomorrow. So let's talk about changing a tire. Now, I always like interjecting humor into class. So this is my short moment of when we're talking about driving emergencies. Even though it's no laughing matter when it comes to getting injured, but I want you to realize this is a commercial, and all these things could have been prevented if things were done right. So what I want you to learn from this is that there's a right way to do things and there are a wrong way to do things. Here we're going to take a look at people doing it the wrong way. Okay, hopefully you got a good chuckle out of some of these commercials. And yes, they spelled tires incorrectly. This is a European commercial, so this is why it was spelled a little bit different than what we do here in the States. But let's kind of break down the three commercials that they showed us. And I think there's something to learn from each one. The first one is that the woman was changing a tire. I give her kudos for doing it, trying on her own. But where she went wrong was using so much pressure that she lost control of her balance. And I don't think you're going to go over a guardrail, but if you're using so much pressure and so much pulling power that if it was on the opposite side of the car, you could have gone into on incoming traffic towards you, and you could have fallen out into traffic. So that's what I took away from that, is that be very careful about how you're trying to get your tire off. And there are smart ways of doing it, and then there are some foolish ways. The second one, I really liked. When I first started to watch it, I said, this is awesome. He's using flares and triangles. He's got a warning vest on. He's doing everything correctly. And then, of course, when you get to the end of the video, he's not paying attention and he steps out into traffic. You've got to remember, some cars do not look out for you. How many times have you driven with me and I've told you to move further away from either parked cars or from maybe a construction worker? You want to stay away from people. And if people make a mistake where they kind of linger out into the roadway, you want to be ready for it. So this guy had no clue that cars were driving so close as he wandered out into the road. And then the last one, probably my favorite, is that why in the world would you ever try to go underneath a vehicle that is lifted on a jack to get something? This is why you should try to find a large stick or something, or maybe anything to recapture the lug nut that rolled underneath. The car balanced on most jacks are not very secure. The ones that you use for your vehicle, the ones that you have at dealerships are much better, much more secure, and even those you've got to be careful when you go underneath. But it's just not safe to do. And the other thing that was kind of a little bit humorous is that, of course, he's stuck underneath the car. His legs are sticking out, and people do not move away from where he is, and they run over his legs. So, as much as I thought that this would be kind of funny to lighten things up a little bit, I hope you take away that it is serious business on the side of the road. Every year, and I know if you went online right now and you Googled driving emergencies, fatalities, I'm sure that there are going to be articles of people that were working on their vehicle on the side of the road that lost their life or were severely injured because cars ran into their vehicle or ran into them as they were working on the car. So be extremely, extremely careful. Now I'm going to show you, and I haven't made a video for this yet, so I did find this from a tire company, a tire warehouse, that came up with a video of how to change a tire correctly. So please take notes as you watch this. I think it's probably the best video that I've come across on how to change a tire.
Make sure your vehicle is parked in a safe location. A low-traffic parking lot or large paved pullout well off any busy street or road is ideal. Set the emergency brake first. If you have a manual transmission, put your car in first gear. If your vehicle is an automatic, just put it in park. Next, place wheel chocks or big rocks behind and in front of the tire opposite the one being changed. This will prevent vehicle movement and the jack from slipping while we work. Next, find your lug wrench, jack, and spare tire. These tools are often located in the trunk under the carpeting. Your vehicle's manual will indicate exactly where they are. This only applies if your vehicle has a hubcap. Many hubcaps just snap into place, but some are held on by the lug nuts. You can usually pry them off using something flat like a screwdriver. If your vehicle has covers over the lug nuts, be sure to remove them as well. Loosen the first lug nut by rotating the wrench counterclockwise just once without removing the lug nut entirely. Then, loosen the second nut directly opposite of the first one, and then the one opposite that, like a star-shaped pattern. If the lug nuts are tight, use your body weight to push down. Look in your owner's manual for where to position the jack. It's often under the frame near the tire with the flat, but not always the case. Our jack should be aligned with a thin seam line that runs under the vehicle. The factory jack has a notch cut out of it for a specific fit. Next, insert the handle and turn it clockwise to raise the car. Lower the jack if at any point your car seems unstable, and never ever get under a car that is only supported by a jack. Now, fully remove the lug nuts and place them in a secure location. Grasp the tire with two hands and pull it straight out. Then place it under the car. This is a precautionary measure just in case the jack slips. Remove any aftermarket accessories like hub rings at this point. The valve stem on the spare tire should be facing out. Then align it with the wheel studs and push it into the assembly. Tighten one lug nut by hand. Follow the same star pattern used to remove the lug nuts. Remove the flat tire from underneath the vehicle. Turn the jack handle counterclockwise and lower the vehicle. Once the vehicle is firmly grounded, fully tighten the lug nuts using your wrench, again in the star-shaped pattern. Remember to gather your tools back in place. Remove the wheel chucks and place your flat tire in the trunk. Lug nuts and lug bolts should be torqued to factory specs. You can also reach out to a local discount tire for proper torque recommendations for your vehicle. Finally, remember that spare tires are smaller and less capable than regular tires. They should only be used for limited short-distance driving. Visit your nearest discount tire.
Okay, I think they did a fantastic job on going over the steps for changing a tire. So let's just kind of go through things kind of quick. Looking for a safe place by far should be your first thought when it comes to, I've got a flat tire, what am I going to do? Well, before you change it, you better find a good place that you're going to be able to work on the car. The other thing is get everyone out. He didn't mention that in the video, but a lot of times in bad weather, like the rain we've been having, a lot of times I'll hear where people say, oh, I won't move around much. Just try to change a tire. I'll stay in the back. No, everybody has to get out of the vehicle. Nobody can be in, because just leaning forward will probably, well, for one thing, it's going to be added weight, but any type of movement and the car could go off the jack. Flares, triangles, emergency lights are all important to warn people. If you have people that are with you and you don't have warning triangles, let them be an aid of alerting drivers that are coming towards you that you have a problem. So if you're just around a corner, just over a hill, send the people that are your passengers down the road just a little bit to wave people to move out of the path if you can't get your car off the road very far, and to slow down. Set the parking brake, trig the wheel so the car doesn't roll. Pry off the wheel cover, loosen the lug nuts. Remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. You've probably heard that before. Place the jack on firm ground and then lift the vehicle 2 to 3 inches above the ground that's needed to get the old tire off and the new tire on. Remove the lug nuts, keep them in a safe place. I think a pocket is better than what he did, just in case you were to bump into that little area that he was working on the vehicle. The lug nuts could roll maybe down a drain or in the dirt. You might not be able to find them in the dark. So I always say keep them in a pocket. Lift off the tire, replace it with a spare. Screw the lug nuts on till snug by hand and do it in a star pattern like they said. And then replace the wheel. Okay. Skidding, we're going to talk about that tomorrow night when it comes to driving in bad weather. But basically skidding could be in snow, it could be in rain, sleet, ice. It's where the tires, whether it be front tires or back tires, not gripping the roadway and your car's either fishtailing or being pushed. But remember that it is a steering problem. So in your notes, and I should have mentioned this from the get-go, is that when you're in a panic situation over a driving emergency, always think about where you want your car to be driving, because you're still in motion. Your car is still moving. So make sure you always think, I got to keep my car in my lane. I got to keep my car in my lane. I got to try to control my vehicle so I'm not hitting another car in another lane, or I'm not hitting a guardrail, I'm not going off the edge of the road into the trees or to a stone wall. Try to regain control in your lane. So stay going forward in your lane between the yellow and the white line. Okay. Be ready on any type of a fishtail. Now, when I talk about a fishtail, I'm talking about the back end of your car is starting to sway in one direction. So if your back end sways to the right, you're going to steer to the right. If your back end sways to the left, you're going to steer to the left. And there's going to be what we call counter fishtails or sways that are going to call for you to turn the opposite direction. So this is why you should always have both hands on the wheel. I don't think we have to talk about this. Cars have fuel injectors now, so this is not something that we need to know. I believe this is from an old manual. I don't even think they have that in the new manual. Okay, let's talk about wet brakes though. Brakes will feel different after going through large puddles of water. The technique of drying your brakes is basically accelerating with your right foot, braking with your left foot, which is going to cause friction on the brake pad. And with friction on the brake pad, which will cause heat, and heat will dissipate moisture, and that is what we want to do. Most pads aren't going to be affected by this. I can't remember the last time that the driver's ed car, it's got to be well over 20 years, that we had any problems with our brakes when it came to bad weather. But that's something that you may encounter on older cars. Brake failure will probably be indicated by a warning light first inside your car. You may start to feel that the brake pedal doesn't quite feel the same anymore. So you may have to push a little bit harder. Now in this case where it says pump the brake pedal, what they're saying here is that there may be an air pocket in the brake line, and by pumping your brakes, it is pushing the brake fluid through the line and getting the air pocket out. So you may just hit a pocket, meaning you go to use the brakes, there's no brakes. It could be just hitting a pocket. So pump a little bit and then see if some of the fluid will, solve the problem. Parking brakes can be used. Remember, your parking brake, write your notes, control your rear tires. So you're going to lock up those back tires when you pull up on the emergency brake or parking brake, whatever you want to call it. Shifting to a lower gear will slow the car down, but it will not stop it. If it looks like your brakes are so bad and you cannot stop the car, and you know that you're probably going to hit something that will have some give, and try to do it with a side swiping action of your vehicle. Now, the other thing that I want you to write down in your notes about brake failure and hitting something, I want you to remember whatever you hit, you're going to have to replace. Makes sense, doesn't it? So if you're going down your neighborhood and you take out your neighbor's mailbox and their fence, you're going to have to fix that. You're going to have to, give him money for him to fix it. So be choosy on what you hit. I would hit a fence before I would hit a Mercedes. It's going to cost a lot more money to fix that Mercedes than a couple fence posts. So think about what you're hitting. Sometimes if you're in town, warn people with the beeping of your horn or the flashing of your lights, especially if it's at night, to give people an idea that there's a situation in your vehicle that you're not able to control. Remember, just because you beep your horn fast and loud or flash your lights, it doesn't tell people that it's brake failure. It could be some other type of failure inside your vehicle and you're losing control of your car. So they have to figure this out. So do it quickly, pushing the horn fast and violently, and flashing your lights fast and violently, because that gives more of an indicator that it's an extreme situation. It's just not something that's normal in driving. If you're lucky enough where you can stop the car without doing damage to anything, pull over the side of the road, turn off the vehicle, call for help. It's not something that you're going to be able to fix by the side of the road. The car's going to have to be towed, and it's going to have to be worked on. I hope and pray that none of you will ever have this happen to you when you drive. But we have to talk about it. There will come a day when someone crosses the center line, comes at you, or you have some type of mechanical problem and you're crossing a line and going at other people. So we need to know, what can we do to mitigate the situation? How can we come away with the least amount of damage to our vehicle and damages to human life? So the first thing I want you to write down is hit the brakes as quickly as you can. You need to stop. So remember, I told you cannot break your brakes. So hit the brakes extremely hard. Sometimes you may have to go around something. Look for the shoulder. It says never left, and I'm The more I've been teaching driver's ed, the more I understand that every situation calls for different procedures. So I'm never going to say never. I will say that if you do have a crash in somebody else's lane, they're going to probably pin it on you as being the culprit, the one that initiated it. So be very careful, because liability reasons, I do believe you will probably be found at fault. But if it's a lot safer on the left side, let's just say that it's an open field, I would go to the open field on the left before I would go into parked cars or other things like that. Especially if it looks like a person has passed out, you can see that they're not behind the wheel and they're coming at you. The likelihood that they're going to steer back in their lane is pretty slim. So turning quickly does make sense. Side swipe, we've already talked about. This is just to slow the car down. It's not a sudden stop. Speed up quickly. Put down in your notes, that's more for driving through downtown areas where people are coming out of parking spaces or in parking lots. This is where I would avoid being hit. It's not so much intersections, because at intersections I think it's better to stay stopped at a stop line than to start going through and go, oh, that person's not going to stop at the stop sign or the traffic lights, so I better speed up. I would stay at the stop sign and have a good indicator of what they're actually doing before I would cross through an intersection at a traffic light or a stop sign. So that's just basically how I would handle it. When it comes to collisions, sometimes you're just plain lucky. Can you believe, yes, that person is crushed between two tractor trailers, and yes, he is alive. Okay, that is going to be one lucky individual. I don't know what he was driving. That'd be kind of interesting to figure out. But I would like to hear his story, that's for sure. But I saw this and I'm thinking, when it comes to being hit, this is what we want. We want damage to the car, but no damage to us. Vehicle overheating is very common. The temperature gauge on your instrument panel will be giving you some indicator of what is happening, so pull over to the side of the road. Sometimes you may be seeing steam coming from the radiator, so get off to the side of the road, turn off the engine. Remember that your radiator is under pressure, so if you know anything about radiators, don't touch a radiator cap that is hot. Let it cool down a little bit. And if you're going to put any type of fluid in a vehicle, make sure that the vehicle is cooled down so it can take that fluid's temperature, because if you've got a hot engine and very cool coolant or fluids, then metal does not like that. It will expand and you'll have some major issues to your engine. So don't do that. I would send for help. This is like above your pay grade. Don't try to be Joe Mechanic. Get somebody else to take a look at it. And driving with an overheated cooling system will ruin your engine. So the minute you see that temperature gauge going up, you should be pulling over to the side of the road or trying to find a local garage that you can pull into for them to take a look at it. If the temperature gauge is starting to rise, I will tell you, this is a technique that's not in the state manual. I wish that it was. And I don't think it's in responsible driving, but I want you to write this down. Turn on your heater system as high as you can. By turning on the heat to your heater, it takes some of that temperature that's really hot in the engine compartment. It brings some of that heat into the passenger compartment, and you will see a slight drop for a little bit of time on your temperature gauge. So roll down the windows, even in the summertime, turn on the heat, see if the gauge goes down to at least get you to a garage. This doesn't happen very often, where plunging into water, a vehicle will float for a little bit, so try to get everybody out as quickly as possible. The vehicle will always sink where the engine is, and that's usually in the front. So get to the back, get a couple deep breaths, try to kick open the door or roll down the window, and then get out of the vehicle. Surprisingly, most people think vehicles plunging in water is where they leave the bridge, they go over a guardrail or whatever. Most vehicles, it's flooding. Like, well, we've had a lot of flooding. People drive into areas that they think they can drive through, and the car gets lifted up and it drifts them into areas that are much deeper than where they tried to cross a roadway. It's from flooded areas. And in New England, we even have people that think it's safe to drive on frozen lakes, and they're in their vehicle and it gets dropped between or through the ice, and they're into pretty cold temperatures, and your body can't handle the cold temperatures, and they have some issues. This person, let's see if I can get to it. Here's a person going off a bridge, and I don't know about that bridge. That's got to be a private bridge because there's no guardrails. So that is just craziness, trying to cross that in bad weather. So, shame on them. But here's a person I wanted to show you. And when I tell you that people drive their vehicle on ice and they get caught, it does happen. And this was an article that I found in the local paper back in 2015 because I know the family. I actually know Sarah, or did know Sarah. She has passed away since, but that's her mom. We attended the same church. She used to sit, probably 3 or 4 rows behind me in church. And what happened here is her and her twin brother were caught in the back of their dad's SUV, and her brother got out, but she was not able to in the cold temperatures. She suffered a very severe brain injury, and she only lived into her 30s. It looks like right here. But pretty bad to see one of your kids not able to get out and have to go underwater and try to free her. And I believe it says here in the article, she was trapped in the car for 40 minutes. It's surprising that she lived through it. Headlight failure is when your bulb goes. So if you have a bad bulb, I don't in my driver's ed car right now. This one's been pretty good, but in most cars that I've had in the past, I've always carried a spare light bulb for my headlights, a spare bulb for my brake lights, because they were always going out in the worst times. Late at night when there's no stores open where I can get this stuff. And they're pretty cheap. And if you're going to keep the car for a while, it might not be a bad idea to carry something in some type of a work box in the trunk in case you have to, change light bulbs. And all of you should be able to change a light bulb onto a car. It's not very difficult. You look at the owner's manual, and it'll take you step by step of what needs to do. Now, when they talk about the dimmer switch here, they're just talking about high beam. So if you're really not seeing the road very well because one of your headlights went out, use your high beams. People are going to be aggravated, but they would be more aggravated if you didn't stay in your lane and you went over the center line and started to drive towards them. Emergency flashes are a must too while you're on the side of the road trying to work on your vehicle. Stuck gas pedal. This happens sometimes because you've got dirt, debris, maybe somehow something, like a stick or something got lodged in behind the gas pedal, whatever. But you're never supposed to reach down where you can't see the road and pull up on it. You should just kind of take your foot and lift up on the back of your foot. And shifting to neutral, that is so important. Write that down in your notes. Toyota had a major issue with cars that had stuck gas pedals, I think back in the early 2000s, where people were running stop signs and traffic lights and getting injured or killed because of a stuck gas pedal. And if they would have only put it in neutral and used their brake pedal, they probably would still be here today. Because the minute you put it in neutral, you take away the acceleration of your vehicle. The car cannot move forward if you are in neutral. The only thing that you will be able to do is use your brake pedal. So take the acceleration away. So here's Toyota, and I found this online. Maybe this was part of what they had to do. So here's the stuck gas pedal.
Although it is a rare occurrence, your Toyota may experience a sticky accelerator pedal. You should pay attention to the operation of your accelerator pedal. If the accelerator is harder to depress than normal or slower to return, it may be a precursor to a stuck pedal. These vehicles should be parked and a dealer immediately notified. Okay, what should you do if your accelerator pedal sticks? Although it is a rare occurrence, we thought you should know what steps you should take in the unlikely event that it did occur. If your pedal sticks and won't return to its original position when you take your foot off of it, step on the brake with both feet using firm and steady pressure. Don't pump the brake pedal as it will deplete the effectiveness of the brakes. Then simply shift into neutral, that's N for neutral, and firmly apply the brakes to make a controlled stop on the side of the road. If your Toyota's transmission has a notched shift gate and you're driving in sport mode, step on the brake with both feet using firm and steady pressure. Simply nudge the shifter to the right into drive, D, then forward into neutral, N, and firmly apply the brakes to make a controlled stop on the side of the road in a safe area and shut off the engine. Drivers who cannot put the vehicle into neutral should turn the engine off. This will not cause a loss of steering or braking control, but the power assist to these systems will be lost. If the vehicle has an engine start-stop button, firmly push the button down for at least 3 seconds to turn off the engine. Do not tap the start-stop button. If the vehicle has a conventional key ignition, turn the key to the accessory position, or ACC, to turn off the engine. But do not remove the key from the ignition, as this will lock the steering wheel. If you experience any issues with your accelerator pedal, please contact your dealer without delay. If you are not experiencing any issues with your pedal, Toyota is confident that your vehicle is safe to drive. Thank you.
So that just gives you an overview of a stuck gas pedal. A few other things that I want to talk about. Power steering failure. Just realize that steering will be difficult. You can still drive a car, but the slower speeds, like getting into parking spots, making slow turns, it's hard. And you really have to use both hands. Sometimes if you pull over to the side of the road, turn off the car, put it in park, turn off the car, restart it. Sometimes, just like your computer gets that death wheel, sometimes power steering failure, it has to do with your systems kind of double checking each other, where it's just a computer glitch type of thing, and restarting may solve that problem. Hood flies up. That doesn't happen that often. Usually when you check your oil or look at anything inside your engine compartment, you need to push down on the hood to make sure that it is clicked with its safety latch. If it's not and the safety latch is faulty, if you're driving down the road and hit some wind, there's a good chance that the hood will fly right up towards you. So that doesn't happen that often. I'm not going to show you that. We've talked about railroads. Wiper failure is talking about the motor of your wipers, not the blade. It's good to have a good blade on your vehicle, but if the motor to your wipers, and it usually will happen in the wintertime when you don't clear ice and snow, and there's too much of weight on that the wiper motor, that's where you're going to run into a problem, and it could actually kind of get stripped or whatever. Just look out the window, try to guide yourself off the road, and if it's bad blades, just go get extras. You know, it's pretty easy to put on, and always clear snow and ice off your blade, because it will give you a clearer windshield, because the caking on of snow and ice is pretty bad for giving good view. Let's talk about disabled vehicle. So your car has broken down. It can't be moved anymore. It should be seen for at least a distance of 200 feet. You should never park on a hill or a curve. If you do, you should place flares or have people waving people out away from where your car is. Parking lights or emergency flashes, any indicator to let people know that there's a problem with the car is advisable. Raise your hood, tie a white cloth red in the winter to let people know that there's a problem with your car. Know that for the final. So a white cloth is a white cloth on the door handle or a antenna is a symbol for you do not have electrical power. Red because white isn't good for winter because you blend in with the snow, so that's why it's red in the winter. Stay with the vehicle, and we'll talk more about being inside your vehicle tomorrow. And reflectors should be placed 200 feet behind or in front of the vehicle. Should know that too for the final. A lot of numbers on the final. So anything that I go over that has a number to it, and I've got it here on PowerPoint, I would probably write it down and study it. Jump starting a vehicle, I will show you in a moment. This is something that I did. Once again, AAA will come out and help you with a jump start, but if someone pulls up to you because you've left your lights on in the parking lot and you just need someone to jump, they've got the cables, they've got a car with good battery and it's running, you should be able to make a connection between the positive terminals and the negative terminals. Just make sure that you do things in order. So look at your owner's manual, try to figure out what you need to do. But I made a little video. I think this was probably the first video that I did with my drone during COVID, actually, to how to jump start your car.
Success.
So it is a very easy thing to do. It doesn't take that long. I can't tell you how many times people have come into the driver's ed room when I'm teaching at the high school in the afternoon, and they've asked me to help jump start their vehicle because they know I always carry cables. And by the way, the hybrid driver's ed car that you're driving, the battery is not in the front. Okay, it is in the back. It's in the trunk. So depending on the car that you're giving a jump start to, make sure that you are pretty close because some of those cables don't go very far. That's why I used my wife's Subaru. And by the way, that truck did have a dead battery. That was real. It actually needed more than just a jump start. It actually needed a new battery, but I was able to jump start it, get enough juice to it, and take it to a place to get a new battery. All right, so that's basically driving emergencies. I want to spend the last half hour here of class to talk about road rage because I really think it's an important subject and we really don't discuss it a lot in the textbook or in the manual. We talk about attitude and being in the right frame of mind with driving, but for the most part, we just don't think too much about it, and we really get caught up in it when we're out driving and people do things to us that upset us. So what I'd like you to do right now to see who's still here with us is I would like you to text to me actually not text, but in the comment section here on YouTube. I want everyone who is here to write some type of driving behavior that happens out on the roadway that upsets you, that just burns your candle. It just sets you off. What is the one thing? I'm going to start. I'll let you know what really bothers me. I'm getting older. My eyesight is getting worse at night. I hate high beams at nighttime where people are coming up behind me or coming towards me and they don't dim their lights. So that is one driving behavior that will upset me when I'm driving personally. So I want everybody to put something. What type of driving behavior out there on the roadway will upset you? And the thing is, the other thing about your homework, this is an article from Foster's, which is a local newspaper. Here are two men that face assault charges for a road rage incident when they were using a flashlight and an angle grinder, which is a metal. It takes metal off metal. And they use this as weapons. So I want everybody to give me some idea, and I think it's kind of strange that people would leave their car with some type of apparatus, some type of weapon to inflict pain on people. Let me show you this quick. This is New Hampshire, so this.
PD tonight, Eller is keeping his license for now.
Well, Tom and Tiffany, the judge thought it would be important for Eller to continue to drive as he looks for work. But it's hard to say what the employment prospects would be for a guy who can't explain why he decided to run someone else off the road.
Police say they've never seen such a blatant case of road rage. Friday morning, 18-year-old Cody Eller appeared in court, charged with felony second-degree assault and vehicular assault. Just a few hours prior, around 4:30 a.m., investigators say he intentionally veered his Ford Fusion into a man on a motorcycle trying to pass him on Windham Road in Pelham.
Mr. Eller admitted to the officers, made some sort of a comment to the effect of he wasn't going to allow the motorcycle to pass him. And that's what he tried to force him off the roadway.
The victim ended up at Parkland Medical Center with a broken leg. The wife of 45-year-old William Hawksley says her husband was riding his Kawasaki from home in Brentwood to work in Lowell. Now he'll need surgery to fix his leg. News 9 caught up with Cody Eller after he bailed out.
I wasn't thinking at all.
Eller spoke briefly, admitting he was as confused as anyone else as to why he did what he did.
I am not a dangerous man. I did not mean to do that, but just my thoughts and my actions just wasn't correct.
Court paperwork indicates Eller sped up and crossed over the double yellow line to hit the bike as Hawksley attempted to pass on the left. A neighbor on 111A apparently witnessed the crash and called 911. While Eller has no explanation for his actions, he does want to apologize.
I'm sorry for what I did, and I did not mean to hurt that guy with any intention.
Mr. Eller does face some serious charges, but he does not have a prior criminal record. His only previous brush with the law was for speeding. Reporting live in Pelham tonight, Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, a couple of things about this really strikes me as quite disturbing. Is because when they interviewed him at the end of the court proceedings, he said he didn't know why he did this because it's not like him. And he said he didn't mean to intentionally hurt the cyclist. But wait a minute here. You took your car and you ran him off the road. What did you think was going to happen? Did you think that he was just going to, swerve to get out of your way? I think he did that intentionally. I think he tried to inflict pain. I think he wanted to do harm to this person. Now that he's caught, most people are not sorry for things that they do. They're sorry that they're caught and they have to make things right. And someone is telling them to make things right. And I don't mean to just be picking on young people, because adults, and I'm sure some of you could probably tell stories where your parents or grandparents or neighbors that you've been in the car with that have shown some bad behavior. They haven't been constrained. What is it that makes people turn into Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde behind the wheel of a car? Some of the people that you know, that you think are calm, collected, good people, will do some foolish, crazy things behind the wheel of a car and behind the wheel of a car towards other people. Now, I'm going to show you another clip from Massachusetts. So I'm doing this local. So when you do your homework tonight, I want you to try to find something local with road rage. So I want you to find an article, and I want you to give me a paragraph of what you would have done differently. What could have changed the outcome of this incident? And by the way, if you do something stupid behind the wheel of a car, you're going to make either the evening news on TV, those are for the real good stories, or at least you're going to make the local newspaper. So if you want to feel embarrassed and live in infamy, road rage will get you there. Here's one that I was really surprised at.
It's not a movie scene, but real-life road rage. After a fender bender, 65-year-old Richard Kamrowski jumped on the hood of an SUV, attempting to leave the scene. The driver speeding up to 70 miles per hour on the busy Massachusetts Turnpike during rush hour.
He kept going fast, slow, tried to get me to slide off. I wasn't getting off the car.
Kamrowski managed to hang on for miles as an onlooker captured the dangerous highway ride. At one point, you see Kamrowski looking down at his phone, dialing 911 for help.
Kind of like just survival mode.
The driver finally hit the brakes when Good Samaritans blocked him in. One bystander drawing a gun. Police arrested the driver, Mark Fitzgerald, for assault with a dangerous weapon, among other charges.
He took my water bottle out of my car. He smashed my window.
Police also arrested Kamrowski. He's charged with disorderly conduct. Two men on one wild ride that started with a minor crash and ended with major drama.
I mean, I'm just about that guy's age. It's like, I would never hold on to a hood of a vehicle. I would have let the guy drive away. I would just take out my phone and take a video, take a picture, and then report it to my insurance company, report it to the police. I don't know why people feel like they have to inflict justice or try to find justice on the side of the road, because there's none to be found. You just can't do it. So let's kind of go through a few things here. I want you to write down these two terms, anger and mad. I want you to realize being upset that somebody did something to you is normal. Everybody has the emotion of anger. Okay, we are not always at our best. We're not always having a good day. Some of us will have many bad days and some real extreme bad days. But we don't act out on our anger. We internalize it. There's probably many times you have wanted to tell your parents off, maybe tell me off, maybe tell a teacher at school off, but you don't. It never really gets to that level. But when someone is mad, they're acting out physically on that. That's where road rage comes in. That's where you're being unrestrained by reason and judgment, like the New Hampshire teen that said, I don't know why this happened. This is not like me. I didn't intend to cause harm. Oh, yes, you did. You were mad. And in the moment, you acted on it. So we've got to find ourselves behind the wheel, and we've got to understand that we've got to actually change what happens. And the thing about road rage is that there really isn't a positive. The only positive from road rage happening is that you don't get involved in it. At the end of the day, if you said someone really got me going, I was ready to pop, I was so furious with that person, and then you tell the story, I let him go. I didn't do anything. Those are the stories we want. That's what we want to happen. We don't want to read about you. We don't want to see you on the evening news, because everybody that makes the evening news either had a crash, there was a physical confrontation, there may have been police involved, so there were tickets, as you saw in the last video clip. And in some states, you could actually go to jail. Now, of course, if you're doing injury to someone, if you're taking someone's life, I don't know if you can, and maybe this is a good thing that we do this tonight, is if you go online and research road rage articles. I believe it was a couple months ago, and I think it was California, where a mother was driving in California and someone drove up to her because I think she may have cut them off or something, and they just shot randomly into the vehicle. And I think it was a 5-year-old son that died in the shooting. And they were looking for a Volkswagen, I think it was, and they found the individual and his girlfriend. So if you look online, see if you can find that, read about it, and see what went on. Because I think it's important that we understand that driving, as much as we will in a lifetime, we're going to encounter situations where we're going to be tested. We're going to be tried to our, your patience will be tried to its furthest limits. And you can't act on it. You really can't. You have to withhold trying to inflict harm on other people. So the first thing I want you to write down is I want you to write down that road rage starts as a mental process. It's how we see things. How is it that some people do get upset at being tailgate, but other people will have the same distance behind them from other vehicles and it doesn't bother them at all? It's because we're all wired differently. We all see things through a different lens. And we've got to be more forgiving, more able to keep focused on what's important, like getting to school is important, getting to work, getting home, and not focusing on what's being done to us. So don't get preoccupied. Usually when something is bad, you've got to always think about, okay, how do I want this to end? What is the solution? How is this going to play out? What do I want as the end result? You don't want to be acting on your worst behavior. And remember, it does take time to overcome. Okay, it's not something that most people can overcome with. What will happen to you physically? Physically, your blood pressure will go up, heart rate will go up. You could look at people and they're just so tense. I mean, body language. What do we think of? When we think of someone having road rage, we think of the middle finger. We think of the beeping of the horn. We think of someone really displaying their displeasure. And you've got to remember that when you beep the horn at somebody, they're going to beep the horn back at you. It's almost like getting in an argument with your brother or sister when you're little. They hit you, you hit them back. They hit you back a little harder, and then you hit them back a little harder. It just escalates. It just gets worse. Road rage is the same thing. The exact same thing. So what we should try to do is try to figure out what can we do to make it better. What are the solutions? Why did it happen? Why did they cut me off? Maybe I didn't have my headlights on. Maybe I didn't have my directional on. Maybe I was driving too fast. So did I contribute to the problem? Remember, you can't change the situation. Once you're in it, you can only make it worse. Okay, so try to make it better. So there is no positive outcome from payback. It may make you feel good in the moment, but in the long run, car insurance, police, it's going to stay with you a lot longer. So try to control what you're doing at the time. Are you going home? Are you going to school? Control what you're doing. And it does take time to overcome. So breathe, relax, and pull over. Okay, I'm going to show you one last clip. And this is done by ABC. They did a real good job on a segment on road rage. So here we're going to see some real life road rage people.
We all have it in us, even if we don't know exactly where it is. A limit, a breaking point, a dark place where civilization ends and animal instinct takes over.
And there may be no faster way to get there than right here, on the roadways of America at the intersection of velocity and violence.
Oh, we have 2 victims here.
You've seen the stories leading your local news.
Another case of road rage.
And polluting YouTube. What feels like a daily diet of road rage reports. Just last week, this shocking video of an incident on a California freeway leading to a multi-car crash.
Call 911, Chris.
Nearly half of all drivers surveyed have experienced some form of road rage.
Here in Denver, the mile-high city, drivers have hit new lows.
Local officials reporting deadly traffic crashes have been slowly creeping up for several years.
We know you're fed up. So are we.
We came to see for ourselves. It didn't take long for us to find it. Rocky Mountain Rage.
Golly, that guy. He was like almost in our lane.
You want reasons? Look around. The city's rush hour turns freeways into ant farms. It's a stop-and-go sea of brake lights.
Yeah, it's not moving up there.
What typically should be a 30-minute commute can take nearly an hour and a half, enough to turn any driver into a ticking time bomb.
I was surprised at how bad the traffic is in Denver.
It's heavy, it's crowded, and it's aggressive.
Captain Jeff Goodwin of the Colorado State Patrol is fighting the uphill battle against an army of hot-tempered motorists.
Don't touch me!
There is that group of individuals that get up helter-skelter every morning. They're never on time. So now they're running late and they've got to make up that time. So how do they do it? They do it by pushing people out of the way, cutting them off, changing from the inside left lane all the way to the exit ramp right as they get there.
Goodwin believes he's pinpointed the root of the problem. With more than 100,000 people transplanting to Denver every year, it's as simple as too many metal machines, not enough pavement.
I used to think it was something like people cutting you off. But you know, one of the things that people really get angry about, if somebody honks the horn at you because you've sat too long at a light, I think they literally go from the Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde.
Around the country, it's not just gangbangers and street thugs mixing it up. It could be any of us. Take a look at these guys in business attire doing the WWE SmackDown. We showed the good Captain Goodwin some examples of bad behavior, and he provided us some potentially life-saving road rules to help you. Rule number 1, don't make eye contact.
This motorist is out of control. And this victim is doing all the right things.
Just stare ahead, don't engage.
Right. Yeah, the minute you engage, who knows where this goes?
Rule number 2, never approach the window.
All right, wow, okay. This is more than over the top because now you have a gun involved.
So you're gonna pull your gun out? What kind of...
You never know who's packing heat.
Exactly.
Is approaching someone's window ever a good idea?
Never do it.
And most important, rule number 3, you don't always have to win.
Looks like it's gonna be over.
But as we see in this case from Houston, the parties involved just can't help themselves.
And here we go. There you go.
I mean, now they're at full-blown fist fight.
Right, this is what happens. It gets worse. The longer this goes, the worse it's gonna get.
It looks like
They just need to win the argument.
That's what it is. Oh.
It was 4:15 when we hit the road with Goodwin and his team. They prowled the interstate looking for bad behavior.
We're looking for aggressive drivers.
Triggers.
Holy
which often lead to the road rage we see on the news.
This is a 75 mile.
Well, we're doing 17 and a 75 at rush hour.
I got a lady who was texting if you want to pull her over.
Within minutes, Goodwin's team has spotted a common breed, a texter at the wheel. Goodwin says distracted driving, the #1 offense that sends drivers into road rage.
And how does that end up leading to road rage?
Well, when she's texting, she's not paying attention to everybody else out here.
Next, we cross paths with a lead-foot speedster, the deadliest kind of aggressive driver.
I could see him in the rearview mirror weaving in and out. He was trying to find that opening.
And that's when people get mad.
Right.
It was now 5:45, the road rage witching hour.
Yeah, we're pulling out.
Goodwin says the peak time for trouble. And the cops had busted this aggressive driver for skipping the off-ramp and blazing her own trail altogether.
Right now, there's a warrant for your arrest.
Her prize? Some new bracelets and a ride in the fast lane to the county clink.
She doesn't have a valid driver's license either, so that's been canceled and denied, so she shouldn't be driving anywhere.
We'd found ourselves at a notorious hotspot.
So this is the frontage road where we have a lot of our issues.
And got a dose of full frontage fury.
So people will be frustrated, they'll come off the frontage road, and then they actually will do this, believe it or not. They will drive here.
Holy cow, this is so steep.
And they will find that steep drop down to the interstate, and they will bounce their way back down into Interstate 25. All because they're angry about sitting in traffic. Off-roading on I-25.
Yeah.
As Friday rush hour traffic mounts once again, we spot this guy who thought he could make up time bypassing all the drivers ahead of him, riding along the road's shoulder. But he's going nowhere fast today.
Well, over here. Hey, sir, do me a favor and stay in your car while we do this business, okay? You passed about 7 or 8 cars going alongside them on the right. You went over the white shoulder. That's not a lane for turning. It's not a lane for passing.
Like many road rogues, this guy's idea of defensive driving is making excuses for his alleged moving violations. He even called 911 to complain about being pulled over.
He stopped me first on the train track with the train coming down the road.
And now that he's caught, he's upset, just is not in agreement at all with what's going on here. So that's his beef.
There goes a guy. There he goes.
Next, check out this blue truck. The driver has jumped the median, passing up other cars, hightailing it the wrong way into oncoming traffic. Captain Goodwin pulls him over, hand on the holster.
What was it? You're not getting in the car.
I haven't seen anybody drive that aggressively in years. He's doing about 90 miles an hour. He damn near hit several cars back there.
I charged him with reckless driving. He just didn't plan on having any law enforcement around to stop him today.
You don't think it's just a Y chromosome thing.
You see a lot of aggressive driving from both sexes.
Everybody drives crazy.
Yeah, it's...
So as you can see, every state has their problem drivers. I think if we went on any national interstate for about a half hour, we could probably see people just like this. So part of your homework tonight, as I said, is to go online to find something that's around here. Let's try to make this current. And we'll just talk about a few things before tomorrow's class about road rage here locally. So I just wanted to kind of get this in tonight so we can kind of get back on track the best that we can. So by the end of the week, I hope to have us back where we need to be. So go to the Facebook page. I have questions on driving emergencies that we covered tonight. Make sure you've done your reading and responsible driving, the questions at the end of that chapter. So just send me a picture. Some of you have done that today already. Do that. And we'll schedule people. Let me get out of here. we'll schedule people for on Thursday and Friday tomorrow, because tomorrow is already booked. I've got everybody filled in. So that's it for tonight. If you have any questions, make sure that you contact me. Oh, we have to, when you drive, ask for a copy of observation sheet that needs to be signed, or I can send it to you via text, or I'll put it on Facebook sometime tomorrow, the sheet that needs to be signed by your parents, because I need that on file when we end up next week. And people are starting to finish some of their driving, which is good. So that's it for tonight. Thanks for staying on and taking notes and bearing with me as we get things back going again. Tomorrow night we'll talk about bad weather, and then Thursday will be on alcohol and drugs. So a lot of heavy hitting, a lot of note taking. The rest of driver's ed really is a lot of material. So make sure that you stay for the whole class, take good notes, do your homework, and you should be all set for the final. All right, so that's it for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. Any questions, just text me later tonight. All right, night.